I never thought my story would be one that people would actually want to hear. I mean, just a high school kid, and spirituality always seemed like something way beyond my reach. I went to church sometimes with my grandma, mostly to make her happy, but I spent most of the time counting the ceiling tiles, checking my watch, or stressing about homework. God felt like a distant concept, like a principle you only see when you're in trouble. But on one autumn morning, something changed inside me forever. Now, looking back, I can't shake the feeling that maybe it was meant to happen this way, that somehow I was given this experience for a reason, to shake me out of the sleepwalking state I had been living in. It all started on a chilly October morning when I was out for my usual Saturday run. Everything was just as it always was. The cold air was refreshing, stinging my cheeks slightly. The leaves were a crunchy blanket of red and gold underfoot, and the quiet hum of the world seemed to blend into my own thoughts. I was thinking about upcoming exams, about a fight I'd had with my dad the night before about the car, just regular teenage stuff that seemed so incredibly heavy at the time. But as I was pushing myself along, about a mile in, something happened that I could never have prepared for. A sudden, intense pain gripped my chest. It wasn't like a cramp or a stitch in my side. It was like a hydraulic vice crushing my ribs inward. It was so sharp that I stumbled, my breath catching in a ragged gasp. I tried to shake it off, to keep going, telling myself to just push through the wall, but with every step, the pain only grew worse until I could hardly breathe. The trees began to spin. The sky turned a sickly shade of gray. The last thing I remember was the gravel of the trail rushing up to meet my face and hearing a distant voice, maybe a jogger, maybe just the wind, call out that help was on the way. Then the world clicked off. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't on the trail anymore. I was hovering, maybe 10 feet in the air, looking down at a body lying on the ground. It took me a confusing moment to realize it was my body. My face was pale, almost blue, and startlingly still. Paramedics were gathered around, working frantically, ripping open my shirt, placing pads on my chest. I saw the jerky rhythm of their compressions. But oddly enough, I wasn't scared or even upset. I didn't feel the cold air or the pain in my chest anymore. It felt like I was just watching a movie scene that didn't quite involve me, as if I were a bystander in my own life. The panic I should have felt was replaced by a strange, detached curiosity, a lightness that felt like taking off a heavy winter coat after a long hike. Before I could process the medical drama unfolding below, the scene began to fade, replaced by a sensation of movement. I felt myself being drawn upward, not by wind, but by a magnetic pull of pure affection. I moved through a tunnel of light that seemed to radiate warmth and comfort. It wasn't blinding. It was inviting, like the glow of a fireplace in a dark room. It was like I was being gently guided, pulled along by something I couldn't see but trusted completely. When I reached the end of the tunnel, I stepped out, or rather, floated out, into a place so beautiful it made the most scenic places on Earth look like rough sketches. Imagine the most breathtaking landscape you can think of, maybe a mountain valley at sunrise, then multiply that beauty by 100. Colors were more vivid than anything I'd ever seen. They seemed to pulse with life and intelligence. I stood on a hill overlooking fields of wildflowers that glistened as if each petal was made of living gemstones. The grass didn't just look green, it vibrated with the concept of greenness and life. The air itself felt electric, alive with an energy that I could feel coursing through me, filling me with a peace I had never known before. In the distance, I could see snow-capped mountains rising majestically, their peaks glowing under a golden sky that seemed to shimmer with light. There was no sun, yet light was everywhere, coming from the flowers, the grass, the air itself. As I took in the beauty around me, I felt something approaching. No, someone. Figures began to emerge from the light, glowing softly with a warmth that filled the space around them. They didn't have faces in the way we think of them, flesh and bone, but somehow I knew who they were instantly. I could feel it deep inside me. They were my family members, ancestors I had never met in life, a great-grandfather I'd only seen in black and white photos, an aunt who died before I was born. I felt instantly connected to them, a bloodline of spirit. They didn't speak with mouths, but their presence telepathically told me everything I needed to know. They were proud of me, and they wanted me to know I was loved. It was like being wrapped in the most comforting hug, one that reached into the very core of who I was. And then the atmosphere shifted. The ancestors parted like curtains, and a new reverence fell over the meadow. Another figure appeared, one whose light seemed to shine brighter than all the others combined. His presence was overwhelming, yet it felt so gentle and inviting. I knew without a doubt that this was Jesus. He didn't look exactly like the paintings in my grandma's church. He was more radiant, less static, his features constantly shifting with light, but the identity was undeniable. The love that radiated from him was solid, heavy like a weighted blanket, yet light as air. It was a love so pure, so complete, that it left no room for fear or worry. He looked at me, and it was as if he could see right through to the very heart of me, understanding every part of me, the secrets, the shames, the hopes, better than I understood myself. Without a word, Jesus began showing me my life. It was like watching a holographic movie that surrounded us, but it was so much more than that. It was a reliving. Each scene he showed me was alive, and somehow I was able to feel what every person in each scene felt. I saw myself as a child learning to share and care for others. I saw the times I reached out to friends who were struggling, offering them a listening ear or a word of encouragement. In each of those moments, I felt this incredible ripple effect, like each small act of kindness I'd done had spread out and touched people far beyond what I could see. But it wasn't just the good moments that he showed me. There were other scenes too, times I'd acted out of frustration, fear, or selfishness. I saw a moment where I snapped at my mom over something trivial. In the vision, I didn't just hear my angry words. I felt the sharp sting in her chest, her worry that she was failing me, her quiet sadness later that night. I felt the hurt I had inflicted physically. Yet through it all, Jesus wasn't judging me. He wasn't standing there with a scorecard. He was there beside me, showing me these moments with a compassion that filled every part of my being, as if to say, "See, this is how we learn. Pain is a teacher." In one particularly vivid scene, I saw myself walking down a crowded school hallway. I was focused on getting to class, barely noticing anyone around me. But then I saw her, a girl who looked lost, almost on the verge of tears. She was new, trying to find her way, and for a moment I had thought about stopping to help her. But I didn't. I just kept going, wrapped up in my own world. Now, as I relived that moment, I felt her loneliness, her crushing sense of being completely out of place. It hit me hard. The way a simple word or a small gesture of kindness could have made a difference for her in that moment. As if sensing my sadness, Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder. His gaze was full of understanding, and in that look I realized that even though I had missed that chance, there were always more opportunities to be kind. Each interaction he showed me was part of a larger tapestry, one that I was only beginning to understand. Then the meadow dissolved, and he took me to a place I would never forget, a library that seemed to stretch on forever. Towering shelves filled with books lined the walls, disappearing into a golden mist high above. Each book pulsed with light. It was like stepping into a living, breathing repository of wisdom and history, a place where every question had an answer and every mystery was waiting to be unraveled. As I wandered the aisles, I found myself drawn to a particular book. I reached out and opened it, and inside were pages that seemed to glow. The words were written in a language I couldn't quite understand, yet somehow I could feel their meaning absorbing into my skin. It was about the nature of God, the mysteries of life and death, and the journey of the soul. With a sense of awe, I turned to Jesus and asked him a question that had been on my mind for as long as I could remember, a question that always bothered me in Sunday school. If you're God, why did you pray to God? He smiled, a warmth in his eyes that made me feel like my question was the most important thing in the universe at that moment. When I was on earth, he said, his voice sounding like many waters yet singular and clear, I was human, just like you. I prayed not because I needed to, but to show others that even in their humanness, they could reach out to God. It was a way of reminding everyone that they were never truly alone. Prayer connects you to something greater, something that goes beyond what you can see or understand. It's an invitation to open your heart to the love and guidance that's always there for you. His words struck something deep within me, a truth that felt both new and timeless. But then, he gestured toward the open space of the library, and the walls seemed to dissolve into a vast starry canvas. "Let me show you what prayer truly looks like," he whispered. Suddenly, the stars shifted, connecting with lines of brilliant golden light. I saw the earth floating in the darkness, but it wasn't just a blue and green marble. It was encased in a delicate, shimmering web. "This," Jesus explained, "is the network of prayer and intention." I watched as little pulses of light shot up from the surface of the earth. Some were bright and steady, prayers of gratitude and love. Others were flickering and frantic, prayers of desperation and fear. But what shocked me was that every single one was caught by the web. Not one was lost. As I zoomed in closer, I saw that when someone prayed, it wasn't just a message sent upward. It was an opening of a channel. I saw a mother praying for her sick child, and as she did, a stream of golden light descended from the web, entering her and giving her strength, then flowing into the child. "When I prayed," Jesus said softly, "I was demonstrating this flow. I was showing that the power of the divine is not static. It moves. It requires a circuit. You are the vessel, and prayer is the connection that allows the energy of heaven to ground itself on earth." Before I could fully absorb the web, the scene shifted again. We were standing in a vast log crystalline hall. The air here was thick, almost like water, but breathable. Floating in the air were millions of shapes, some jagged and dark like obsidian shards, others soft and radiant like bubbles of light. "What is this?" I asked. "This is the Hall of Living Words," Jesus replied. "Here you can see the physical weight of what is spoken." I watched as a person on earth, a man arguing with his brother, spoke harsh, hateful words. Instantly, dark, sludge-like shapes materialized in the hall. I saw how these shapes didn't just disappear. They stuck to the brother, weighing him down, dimming his inner light. They also stuck to the man who spoke them, poisoning his own spirit. Then, I saw a teacher encouraging a struggling student. "You can do this," she said. From her mouth flew birds of light, golden and swift. They entered the student's chest, expanding his heart, physically lifting his posture. "Words are creative energy," Jesus said, his face serious. "When I spoke with the knowledge that I was weaving reality. You do the same, though you do not realize it." Why did I pray? To speak words of alignment, to speak words that created bridges rather than walls. Every time you speak, you are either birthing light or birthing darkness. Then the floor beneath us became transparent, and I saw a structure that looked like blueprints, but they were moving. They were complex geometries of thought. "This is the architecture of thought," he said. I saw a woman worrying about her job. Her worry looked like a gray, chaotic scribble above her head, blocking the light. Then I saw her shift her thought to gratitude for her health. The gray scribble dissolved and formed a clear, geometric crystal that acted like a prism, pulling more light into her life. "Your thoughts are the blueprints of your experience," Jesus explained. I prayed to align my human mind with the divine mind. When you worry, you build a cage. When you pray or express gratitude, you build a cathedral. Jesus then took my hand, and instantly we were atop a colossal mountain. Below us lay a complex maze, and inside the maze were people running, colliding, fighting. "Look at that conflict there." Jesus pointed to two men arguing over a piece of land. From my vantage point, I could see something incredible. I could see the timeline of the first man. His father had lost everything, and he was terrified of poverty. I could feel his fear. It tasted like bitter metal. Then I shifted my gaze to the second man. I saw his history. He felt disrespected by the world and was fighting for his dignity. From up here, it didn't look like a fight between a good guy and a bad guy. It looked like two wounded souls crashing into each other out of blindness. "When I walked the earth," Jesus said, "I lived on this mountain peak, even while I walked in the maze. I prayed to maintain this vantage point, to see the fear behind the anger, to see the wound behind the insult. When you pray, you are climbing this mountain. You are asking to see things as God sees them, not as your ego sees them." We moved from the mountain to a shore, but the ocean before us wasn't made of water. It was iridescent, shimmering with deep blues and purples. "This is the reservoir of tears," Jesus said softly. I watched as angels dipped silver cups into the ocean and poured them onto dry, cracked earth, causing flowers to bloom instantly. You think grief is a waste, he said. You think sadness is a mistake. But here, every tear you have ever shed is collected. It is liquid prayer. It is the breaking of the heart so that it can hold more light. I felt a profound sense of relief, realizing that the times I had cried myself to sleep weren't moments of weakness, but moments of spiritual alchemy. The pain was being used to water the garden of my soul. The scene shifted again to a gray, misty forest. It felt heavy here, confusing. I saw people wandering through the mist, stumbling, looking angry or lost. Why are they suffering? I asked, feeling a pang of empathy. Look closer, Jesus instructed. I focused on a man who was shouting in anger, his face twisted with rage. But as I looked with the spiritual sight Jesus had given me, I saw a dark, heavy shadow attached to his back, weighing him down. But beneath that shadow, in the center of his chest, was a tiny, flickering diamond of light. The darkness you see, the fear, the anger, the greed, it is not who they are, Jesus explained. It is the dust they have gathered from the road. The vision I want you to keep is not of the dust, but of the diamond beneath it. I watched as the man in the vision eventually fell to his knees, exhausted by his anger. In that moment of surrender, the diamond in his chest flared up, burning away a piece of the shadow. Suffering often breaks the shell of the ego, Jesus said. It is not a punishment, but a catalyst. When you return, do not judge those who are lost in the mist. They are simply covered in dust, waiting for the moment their inner light burns through. Then we were in a place that looked like the inside of a giant clock, but made of light beams and sound waves. Gears of light were turning, interlocking perfectly. This is the clockwork of coincidence, he gestured. I saw a man drop his keys in a parking lot. Because he bent down to pick them up, he missed a phone call. Because he missed the call, he drove a different route. Because he drove that route, he saw a billboard that gave him an idea that changed his career. There are no accidents, Jesus said with a smile. The universe is a finely tuned engine of grace. When I prayed, I was syncing myself with this rhythm. When you feel like life is random, remember this machinery. You are being guided even when you drop your keys. Come, Jesus said, leading me to the edge of the clockwork where a river flowed. But this wasn't water. It was a flowing substance made of images, memories, and future possibilities. You think of time as a straight line, he said. Past behind you, future ahead. But look, he dipped his hand into the river. Ripples moved not just downstream into the future, but upstream into the past. Every act of forgiveness changes the past, he said. My mind reeled. How can it change the past? It already happened. The event happened, Jesus corrected, but the weight of it, the karma of it, the emotional chain of it is alive. When you forgive someone who hurt you 10 years ago, you are healing the version of you that exists 10 years ago. You are sending a ripple upstream. I prayed to God to anchor the future into the present. I brought the kingdom of heaven, a future reality, into the now. I watched the river flow and realized that my life wasn't just a series of days ticking by. It was a living landscape where I could heal my past and shape my future in every single moment. Finally, before the return, we entered a garden that felt more ancient than the stars. Here, I saw balls of light, souls, resting in what looked like glowing lotus flowers. They were discussing, planning. I moved closer to a pair of souls. One was bright and large, the other smaller but eager. I will go down first, the large soul said, and I will be your father. I will be hard on you. I will be distant. I will challenge you. Why? The smaller soul asked. Why would you do that? Because, the large soul replied with infinite love, you want to learn independence. You want to learn to find your own strength. And the only way for you to find that strength is if I create the resistance you need to push against. I love you enough to play the villain in your story so you can become the hero. I gasped. I looked at Jesus. Is that real? We choose our struggles? In the realm of the absolute, all is love, Jesus said. But to know yourself as brave, you must experience fear. To know yourself as forgiving, you must be betrayed. You come to earth not as a punishment, but as a school. You choose the lessons, and you choose the teachers, even the difficult ones. Finally, the mist cleared, and we were back in the golden light of the library. Jesus took me to a section filled with books on the nature of the soul. As I held one of these books, I felt this deep connection to something eternal. He waved his hand, and a massive loom appeared in the air, weaving threads of unimaginable colors. Each life, every single soul, is a thread in this tapestry, he said. I saw how each person's journey was unique, but all paths ultimately led to the same place, a deeper understanding of love. I saw my own thread, a vibrant blue, weaving in and out of others. I saw where my thread crossed with the girl in the hallway I had ignored. The weave there was loose, a bit frayed, but I also saw where it crossed with my family, tight and strong. Your journey is uniquely yours, but it is also connected to everyone else's, he continued. That is why each act of love, each moment of compassion matters. It tightens the weave, it strengthens the whole. You help weave the universe with every choice you make. Hearing those words, I felt a sense of purpose I'd never known before. Life wasn't just about going through the motions, trying to succeed, or make a name for myself. It was about something far deeper, about contributing to this greater tapestry, about letting love guide my actions and shape my relationships. Then, as we moved through yet another section of the library, I came across books filled with stories of people I hadn't yet met. It was as if I was being shown glimpses of lives that would one day cross paths with mine. Each person had a unique story, struggles and triumphs, dreams and fears. I saw how my actions might impact these people, how a simple word or gesture could ripple out, influencing lives in ways I would never fully see or understand. It was a humbling reminder that we are all connected, each life touching countless others. Jesus told me that even though I might never see the full impact of my choices, every action, every act of kindness matters in ways that I couldn't imagine. I realized that this love, this presence, was available to everyone, even in the darkest of times. Jesus explained that each person has an inner light, a piece of the divine that can never be taken away. It was a comforting reminder that no matter what I faced, I would always have this connection, this strength within me. Finally, as I stood there taking in all that I had seen and learned, Jesus looked at me with a gentle expression. "You have to go back now," he said softly. My heart sank at the thought. I didn't want to leave this place, this feeling of complete peace and love. But he showed me images of the people who would be part of my life. Friends, family, even strangers who might need a smile, a kind word, someone to remind them they mattered. With a tender look, he said, "Share what you've seen. Show others the love that's always within them." Each person you meet is a chance to make the world a little brighter. As I felt myself being drawn back, I was filled with a sense of purpose that went far beyond anything I had known before. I knew that life would never be the same, that I would return with a new understanding, a new mission to spread love and kindness in whatever ways I could. And as I opened my eyes back on Earth, the paramedics hovering over me, the sirens wailing in the distance, I knew that this experience would stay with me forever. The cold air rushed back into my lungs, stinging and sharp, but it felt like a gift. Every person I met, every choice I made would now be guided by this incredible journey I'd been given. Life was no longer just about going through the motions. It was about building a better world, one act of kindness at a time.